On this episode of Cocktails with Bright Antenna, we have the one and only Colin Hay, who you may know from Men at Work or Scrubs, among many other things, as well as Cecilia Noël and Scheila Gonzalez. The conversation is enlightening, the cocktails are delicious, and the acoustic versions they play of Come Tumblin' Down and Overkill will hit you in the heart. So let's jump right in and get the conversation going at the Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley, California. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cocktails with Bright Antenna. I'm Scott Shoemaker.
Tiffany DeBartolo.
Both from Bright Antenna Records. And today we're very honored and it is our pleasure to have with us master musician, performer, storyteller, and songwriter, Colin Hay.
Thank you. I tell no stories anymore. I'm a former storyteller.
Okay, well, we're done here then. Nowhere to go from that.
Wait, we were promised cocktails.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can do that. You just want to get a story.
His partner in crime, Cecilia Noël, who has been referred to as the Latin Tina Turner, I believe.
Oh, Dios mío.
Yes.
Yes, girl.
And also Scheila Gonzalez, who is a part of Colin's band, sax, flute, keys, vocals, all that fun stuff. Yes. So, thank you all for coming. I know you're in the middle of a never-ending tour that just apparently keeps going.
Keeps going.
Hopefully.
Please.
I like your haircut, Scott. It's quite good.
Yes.
No, I have
It's a
a
little
question.
Shaggy DA.
I have a question. Do you just shake it, or do you kind of
I-
style it into that apparently a little unkempt, but is it
The morning after shower is usually just a shake.
pretty good?
Although I asked Tiffany before, as we were about to start, I'm
it's
like,
it's got the
is
Tiffany.
there any like...
It's got the Tiffany touch.
I just very good.
Touch of Tiffany.
Lovely.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Excellent. So I appreciate you asking about my hair. No one's ever done that.
No worries.
Very nice.
Well,
He
since
notices.
we're talking about the help of wives, since you're sitting here surrounded by two beautiful women,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about how awesome it is that you get to travel with these cool women?
Well, I was thinking that actually yesterday, that's one of the good things about this tour. It's not just a bus full of stinky men, you know, and of course, when you have two women on the bus, the men tend to be better behaved, which
They're
is,
lovely.
you know, but it's a good traveling band, and you can't really tell how well it's going to travel until you travel.
That's right. Yes.
And how many people are in this band that you're traveling with now?
Six-piece band.
Six-piece.
And 3 crew, so it's there's 9 of us traveling.
A beautiful night.
That's a full bus.
That is
Yeah.
a full
It
bus.
is.
Yes.
Those little
Yeah.
coffin beds.
That's right.
Fun times.
But it's a beautiful band to play with, and you can't really, you can try and put something like that together. You can try and manufacture it, but you're never really sure how it's going to be. And then what you really want, because of the fact that I hire people to come and play with you, you get what people are prepared to give you. So what you really want is the situation where it feels like a band. So it feels everyone is listening to everybody else, and then it becomes becomes more playful, becomes more interesting. Different things can happen, and you put the energy out into the audience, and if it comes back, then it becomes like a current. And it's a frequency.
Is it like its own living organism?
Yeah,
almost,
and then
on
you
stage?
can kind of float on that until the next one, and you get on the bus and
Celebrate.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. Nothing wrong with it.
Not at all. And if you happen to have these two, they might make a special cocktail
Yes,
that
That's right.
they call the Coptail.
yes. Perhaps Cecilia can tell you the story
Absolutely,
of how
yes.
it's-
There's
how
There's
it
a
came to.
story.
You know, I was born in Lima, Peru, where part of my family thought they were quite sophisticated. And I had a particular
Colin's
aunt.
laughing at that.
He loves the stories of Peru. And this particular aunt, she thought she knew exactly how to celebrate and invite
Impress her friends.
impress her friends with Coptail. cocktail parties. So she would invite everyone for a cocktail. So I
That's
thought
COP
when I met
tail.
Scheila intimately, because we were fans of each other for many, many years, but now we are bandmates and we have fallen in love with each other.
I just get in the way.
Colin, can you leave us alone?
I'm useful sometimes.
Yes, my dad. You are always.
I'm a good barista.
Yes. And
that's
and
true.
he chooses some of our wines.
So I interrupted you. Keep
My
going.
darling. So because Scheila is a fan of the cocktails, I told her the story about my aunt, and we decided to rename ourselves Las Coptails. Right? Go,
Right.
Scheila.
And you have a
Ow! And
that was amazing. For those of you who couldn't see that, there's a shaking of the shoulders and upper chest area, and a flick of the rear end.
our bum feathers.
Yes,
That's
bum
what we
feathers,
do.
yes.
We have our costumes currently being
Being designed
Tailored
by a,
for us,
very-
yes.
by a famous
There's something delightful about bum feathers.
bum feathers. Thank you, darling.
And so we have two of those pre-made.
Yes.
That's the pineapple
Yes.
variety.
The
Yes.
pineapples
Then
are ready.
There are two about to be poured that
All
are
right.
the mango
We
variety.
can get to it, yes.
And this involves a
It involves.
It involves
Yes.
me not getting entangled in the ingredients. So what we have for this cocktail, shall I describe the ingredients?
you can just go through it quickly. We're going to put all the information on how
All
to
right,
make
great.
it in the information
Well, we've
section
got,
of the podcast.
I need to make sure I'm not entangled here as I go to pour because I don't have a lot of room. But
All right.
we'll have a go here.
Oh, thank you.
Give it a little
First,
shake.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Excellent on the mic.
Do you have your strainer?
I don't have my strainer. That
Can you
I
please
need.
pass the strainer?
I do need a strainer. Let me see if I,
I
can
have
see
no
it
idea.
over
I
here.
have no idea where the strainer is.
I think the strainer was taken away.
No problem.
That's all right.
That's
You
all
need to
right.
strainer.
There'll be a little bit of ice, and that's okay. If a little ice gets
totally
through, that's
cool
all
with
right.
This is the icy
We have the
cocktail.
icy
I
cocktail.
like it.
Whoa,
We have a little
Dios mío.
ice. We
Un
have a little ice.
refreshment.
It's refreshing.
Refreshing.
So
If
basically,
you happen
it
to
involves...
find yourself in Antarctica, it'd probably be like that.
Right, exactly. And we
you,
have
darling.
one key ingredient to finish it off and make it a little sassy, and that's you start off with Pear vodka, Elderflower liqueur. I prefer Saint Germaine, the juice of a couple of limes because there's nothing like fresh citrus.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Really to make it nice.
Trouble.
And you top it off with,
With a
a
splash
generous splash of
Prosecco.
Prosecco.
And here we go.
Yes.
Absolutely. We'll wait.
And Colin is going to toast with a
I'm
fabulous...
gonna have what's called a Moscow Mule. It says if it's not made with cock and bull, it's not an authentic Moscow Mule, and it's very good unless you're trying to get off the sugar. And then it's no good, which I am. But for this one, it's a ginger beer which I'm fond of because it gives you a bit of a kick without the alcohol. Because unfortunately, I had too much alcohol in my life, and I've had to stop.
Yes.
Smart man.
So I'm just gonna have a ginger beer
Would
with.
you like a little squeeze of lime in there?
I would, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, that would
let's,
be...
let's see if I can
Sheila
squeeze any
always
more.
comes up with a great
Get a little juice out of there. Anything left? They took my press. and
I just want to
there's
say for
press
the
lime
record that I
juice
didn't
there.
start
Yeah,
drinking
This is
until
the
I
ginger
was
beer
grown
with
fingers.
four drips
Four
of lime.
drips of lime, yes, only four.
Tiffany went the other direction.
Yeah.
She didn't
Well.
start drinking until she was 34.
Yeah.
That's
So I'm
very wise
still-
of you. So you
yeah.
can have a.
I've got a long
Thank
way
you
to go.
so much. Looking
Right.
in your eyes. Looking
Look
in
in
your
your
eyes.
eyes.
Oh yeah, I gotta look in the eyes.
Look in the eyes. Look in the
Thank you
eyes.
so much.
Looking in the eyes. Cocktail.
Excellent.
Yum.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Danger drink.
Good and
We
dangerous.
discovered
it tastes
something.
like lemonade or
And you can
something
serve
really
it up. You can
refreshing.
serve it on
Thank
ice.
you.
Thank
And
you.
Fun.
Thank you.
I'm curious, since you're from Peru, have you ever spent much time in Peru?
I've been to Peru a few times, played there, and
Oh, wow.
I've been there to Cecilia's home in Barranco, Lima.
I have a little house there.
Yeah, and it's like being in a Marquez novel.
Garcia Marquez.
You know, it's
Yeah.
you come out of the house
Magic.
at 10 in the morning, and there's like a 25-piece kind of fully uniformed brass band playing in the street, and you don't really know why. and you're just going to go and get a coffee, and that doesn't really happen anywhere else.
No.
Yeah,
I still don't really know why they were there.
It's magic.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And where did you two meet?
We met, originally we met in New York in 1985. I was mixing the Third Men at Work album, and Cecilia was there
Muse.
as a muse for
Lyle Mays.
Lyle Mays, and she was there with her
My
sister
Bettina.
and we spoke briefly.
Yes.
You know, just for a few minutes, really.
Yeah.
And then I never saw Cecilia again until 1993.
8
Oh, wow.
years
8
later.
years.
When we're on the
8
same,
years
we're on the
later.
same bill in Topanga. Actually, she was headlining and I was on before her, and we had a mutual friend who's a lawyer. He introduced us, and I stayed and watched her show. And so Cecilia had a really legendary band in Los Angeles in the 90s called Cecilia Noël and the Wild Clams, like a 16, 17-piece Latin salsa band, mixture of salsa, funk, and soul. And I used to take people to see her band a lot because they were extraordinary. And they played at the Big Potato every Monday night. So I knew her for years before we actually started, going out together and stuff. So we liked each other, we knew each other, but we had like almost a decade of kind of taking people to see her play and perform before she decided to stay. Before she decided to never leave my house.
Will, how could you?
Yeah.
You know, how could you? Yes. One day he cooked for me, and that was the end of it. I said,
Well, she said to me, do you realize how difficult it's going to be for you to get rid of me?
Oh,
That's what she said.
Do you still cook? Do you like to cook?
I like to cook.
he's the best.
Oh, really?
The best.
Wait, I heard a rumor
chef.
that you make really good Brussels sprouts.
Oh my God. I don't eat Brussels sprouts, I eat his Brussels sprouts. Amazing.
It's a much maligned vegetable,
It is.
but it's delicious if cooked properly. And they're becoming very fashionable again.
Yes, they are.
Any tricks you're willing to share on the Brussels sprouts?
Well, you put them in a colander and you just blanch them under water. You just run them under cold water, and then you heat up. If you like butter, I like a little bit of butter, but olive oil and butter in a pan, and you have to watch it and get it quite hot, and then you throw the Brussels sprouts in and cover them, and then you hold the pan, and every few seconds you have to shake them. Put it down, and then shake them, and it gives them it seals them with a little bit of salt and pepper if you like, and after about 5 minutes of doing that, you turn the heat down as low as it will go, and you just cook them like that for about maybe 10-12 minutes, and then little, like as I say, little salt and pepper. I mean, you can add other things to them, but I just like them like that. That's right. Something else. When you turn down really low, you just drizzle a little bit of soy sauce.
Soy sauce. That is the secret ingredient. And I was waiting for him to say it.
There it
I was
is.
There you
waiting
have
to
Colin
hear
Hay's
that.
super secret Brussels
Yes.
sprouts recipe. Have you had these Brussels sprouts,
I've
Sheila?
not. I'm feeling a little deprived. So hopefully one day.
Maybe
Hopefully
next
one day.
time Brussels sprouts with Brian and Tenna.
There you go.
I don't mean to disrupt your questions, but I'm mesmerized by your nails. You
Yes,
have
I
the
thought
most
you were.
beautiful nails.
Thank you very much.
I've never ever seen a man with more beautiful hands.
I wish they were mine.
They're not?
Well, they're my hands, but they're not my nails. They're acrylic.
Wow.
Yes.
For playing guitar.
Yeah, I go to the nail Lily's Nails in Santa
Lily's
Monica,
Nails in Santa Monica.
and there's a woman there who does a great job. She also does, I think, Jackson Browne's.
Wow.
I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. and a number of other guitar
I think
players.
it's
I
Tina.
love it.
Yeah,
Tina, who does it?
Tina does.
And she does a beautiful job.
Beautiful.
And it lasts like this for about a month, which is usually great because you're usually on tour for a month. Then you go home and you just get her to, to fill them and do them again. So, but it works really well because I have very weak nails, and if I don't have these and I'm playing the guitar, they break.
Yeah.
And so I can't play, finger style. Not that I'm great at it, but I do use my fingers to play. So,
Yeah.
so
Very beautiful.
that's the story there. And thank you.
So here's a question for Colin. What does the guitar mean to you? Or what is the guitar to you?
Oh, the guitar. That's an interesting question.
The guitars.
The guitars.
The guitars. How many guitars do you have first? Let's start there.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I have a lot of guitars.
That's fine.
Well, I all through the Men at Work years, well, 4 years or whatever it was, I didn't have any. Before I was in Men at Work, I had no money, not much money anyway. I used to work and just to get guitars. But I went to there's a man in Melbourne who's legendary. His name is Merv Cargill, and he's a guitar repairer, and he's been there forever. And everyone's been to him, AC/DC, and every single famous Australian band have gone to see this man to get their guitars repaired. And he would also help you out and get you a guitar if you wanted. He could get you expensive guitars, but he would also advise you about what to get, which were really good guitars, but not terribly expensive. So he got me this Yamaha guitar, black Yamaha guitar. I think it was called an SG 1500 2000, and it cost about $500.
We interrupt this broadcast for the following factoid. A vintage 1978 Yamaha SG 2000 in good condition might cost you around $1,800 today.
Which even then was quite expensive.
That's pretty expensive then.
But, well, maybe it was a bit less. Anyway, I can't remember. $450, $500, as opposed to, $2,000 to get a Stratocaster or a Telecaster, So he said, these are really good guitars. So he bought me that and he set it up. And that's the only guitar I had all through the, Men at Work.
Oh, wow.
I only had that guitar. And then I came to America and I discovered the home of fantastic guitars, Martin Gibsons and Fenders. And of course now there's all these boutique makers, and so I have, lots of different guitars. I love Collings guitars. They're made in Austin, Texas. I use those guitars, and.
Then what do all these guitars or the instrument mean to you, or is it to you?
Well, it's it's a way to put it's a way to express musical melodies and musical harmonies, put them out into the air, and it's it's an end in itself, in the sense that I was always looking for something to. It's a way in and it's a way out. It takes you into the world you want to be in, and then it leads you somewhere as well. So it's a beautiful expressive instrument in that sense. So it means a lot. It means a lot to me. Yeah, it's especially when you. I used to learn different styles. I would try and learn a bit of jazz guitar, and I wasn't really great at that. And I'd learn classical for a little while, and then use open tunings. But I always had little ideas for songs. So that's what always kind of popped into my head. I would learn a new chord, and I would write a song around that, rather than get into the depths of where you could go. So I probably should be, a better technician than I am at the moment. But songwriting's got in the way.
Thankfully,
Yes.
Got in the way of that.
Some great songwriting. Well, let's hear one of those now.
All right.
What song you're going to play for us here
Well,
first?
I would like to play a song called "Come Tumbling Down." And interestingly enough, when I'm touring, I had the idea for that little song in Atlanta, Georgia.
And this is off your most recent album, Pears Mercy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had the idea for that. And when I get back home to Los Angeles, I have a songwriting partner, a guy called Michael G. And he would come around and he would go, what do you got? What do you got? And I would.
It sounded like that. Is that?
It's exactly like that.
And I would go to my telephone and he'd go, yeah. Oh, what's that? I'd say that's it, and I'd play him. That's good. Let's finish that. So it's good sometimes to have somebody to sound ideas off and get another opinion. So this was one of those songs, and we finished this song together. I like this song a lot.
All right. Well, let's hear it. Come Tumbling Down.
1, 2, 1, 2. up to coin the wishing well. Boy, it's a long time drive. I watch that old Greyhound bus kick up dust as it rolls on by. I asked the man in the station, he said, son, just take a look around. There hasn't been a train through here since it all came tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling, come tumbling, come tumbling down. I'm not a drinking man no more, but this one night I got lost. I've never been much of a dancer, but this night I surely was. We made it out to the cottonwood, slept with my ear down to the ground. And in my dreams I could hear the screams as it all came tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling, come tumbling, come tumbling down. The corridors are all empty, and there's a child sitting on the stairs. She's seen everything there is to see, and somehow she still cares. We took her right on the Ferris wheel, made of glass and steel and such. Now it's melting in the sun, it's not worth all that much. I raise my hands up to the sky as we climb to higher ground. Let's just keep on dancing till it all comes tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling. Come tumbling. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling. Come tumbling. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling. Come tumbling. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling down. Come tumbling. Come tumbling. Come tumbling down. All right.
All right, that was Come Tumbling Down. Awesome song, love it. That was really cool just to hear live. Thank you so much for playing it. Tiffany
Yes.
is curious about something.
I'm curious to how it is to work together as a couple, because Scott and I work together as well as a couple. So
And then
you
to
know,
have this additional
Yes.
couple happening as well. I don't.
we know the excitements of
Which is-
and challenges of working together. Do you have excitements and challenges of working together?
Oh, it's pretty good, really. I mean, I don't think there's too many challenges. I'm lucky enough to have a studio in the basement, and so it's not totally soundproof, so you can hear what's going on upstairs. And so sometimes, if I'm recording something, Cecilia comes down and she says, "I have an idea," and if the microphone's on, she'll just sing the idea and then go back upstairs, and so that's very helpful for me. And also, she's a very good record producer in her own right.
Thank you, darling.
And has got great instinctive ideas for what is good and what's worth following, what's worth following up with, and so I can't really think of anything that's a real challenge with it, as long as you're just prepared to, you know, leave each other alone and let each other do what we do. You know.
Important to give each other space.
Yeah.
And to be respectful of that. You've found the same thing.
Absolutely.
Do you agree,
I
Cecilia?
love it. When I first met Colin, I knew that eventually one day we were going to collaborate musically. So I would play. Yes, well, you know, that was on my bucket list, and I would play his music in the car, and I would breathe with him. I learned to breathe and sing along with him because you know he has a particular way of phrasing, but it's not that predictable. And sometimes he changes in the show when you know. And we both like do some harmonies together. And Scheila asked me questions about where is that we cut the phrase, and it's instinctive and also is be at the moment with him and breathe with him while he's singing to do the accurate harmonies. It's lovely.
I love
he is
that.
the best singer in the world.
Really,
I love you.
Yes.
Thank you, darling.
Yeah. And well,
You learn a lot.
Sheila, from the outside, like, is there
Yes.
anything, having witnessed them as a couple, like that you're just like, wow, you know, that's you admire, or you're
Yes.
like, I'm not so sure about them.
Yes, there have been many wow moments, but it's a beautiful thing to see because I have to say that I've been a fan of both of them individually for each of their projects for a long time. And I, of course, just always knew and loved the music of Men at Work. So every night I kind of have to avoid going into fangirl mode and keep myself in line when it's time to actually be the one playing the part and make sure I do my job. And also, friends and I used to go every Monday night to the Baked Potato to hear Cecilia Noël and the Wild Clams just for, you know, years while they did their thing. And that was an explosive, mind-bending thing that everyone should check out.
YouTube videos.
I saw
I've
a
seen
YouTube
a
video
couple. Yeah.
of you of
Look
your
that up
cover
on
of "You
YouTube,
Shook Me All
everyone.
Night
Right.
Long," which was amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it, that one?
Yes.
So it's just a thrill to see two such creative, passionate artists not only working together in a band and coexisting together in a band with their individual personalities, but also being husband and wife and being able to share that dynamic. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
It's really
I agree
beautiful.
with that. That's one of my favorite things about working with my husband is that
That's me.
we sort of have the same goals every day, and what's important to me is important to him, and it's a really special thing to be able to, like, you know, I know a lot of couples whose one goes off to this job and one goes off to that job, and it's hard for them to relate to what each other does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
so
there's
to get
certain,
to share
there's
that.
certain conversations you just don't have to have.
Exactly.
Yes, and I
Right.
have to say that I appreciate my husband through his support. He's a wonderful musician as well, and he works in the industry as well, not performing at this point in time. But that basic fundamental understanding and his support allows me to do this as well.
So cool. Yeah, although there are times when the rest of the crew at Bright Antenna are like, if we might be having a little off moment, and they'll be like, "Is this something from home, or is this really work related?
like,
what are you guys doing?"
Do I have to be here during this?
Should I give my opinion or should I stay out of it?
Yes.
That's good.
It can be challenging though.
Yes.
That's good.
But fun.
Yes.
But it's all about love.
It is. It is
It all
all
comes
about
from
love.
love.
But like you said earlier, like allowing each other the space, like if she ever is like has to like just feels like I need to get away for a week and just do my own thing, I'm like, absolutely, it's very important. You got to do that.
That's
So,
it.
Yes.
Cheers
very
to
good.
that.
Cheers to
Cheers to
that.
Cheers to that.
Cocktail time.
Cocktail.
Cheers to
Ching, ching.
Oh, look in the
Pass ours
Oh,
down.
yes. Come on, Colin, you too.
I think
Oh, look at me. Yes.
I think Joseph Campbell says something very interesting about marriage too, where a lot of people think that you have to compromise your own individuality when you're inside, but when you're inside a marriage. But you know, really, a really good marriage is where both individuals are still coexist, and yet there's another entity which enters it, which is another bubble, which contains both of you, but it's something else.
Yes.
You know, so the key is to not to ever feel or make somebody else feel that they're compromised, and then it seems to work better.
That's
you know.
it.
Yeah, and I think it took us a while to learn that.
Yeah.
We
It took us a while to learn that, and you know what helped me get through that period where I was still learning that? Your song, I Don't Think I'll Ever Get Over You.
Oh.
One of my all-time favorite songs in the whole world.
I mean,
Thank you.
Can't listen to it to this day without crying. But
Oh,
it's
you'll
a
cry a
beautiful
bit
song.
tonight.
Oh,
oh,
good.
good. Can't wait to see that tonight. Yeah, I mean, that kind of came back around. Was it during Scrubs?
No.
Garden
time?
State.
Garden
was-
State.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it was on the Garden State. That's
It was
right.
on the Garden State soundtrack,
Yeah.
but it was a song that I wrote sitting on a deck in Topanga, but it wasn't in my house. It was in another guy's house in Topanga, a guy called Josh Clayton Felt, who's now passed away. But I was visiting him one afternoon, and he went off to do something, and I was sitting on his deck, and he had a guitar sitting there, which was in Dadgad tuning, which is one I use, and so I just started playing it, and that song came out in like 40 minutes or something, and then I went home.
Wow. That's
So-
just one of those magical.
Yeah.
There it was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, he was full of magic, that boy.
And so
It's beautiful.
so what were we talking about? I don't know what we were
Writing
talking
the
about.
song
The
on
Just
the
writing
writing
deck.
the song and magical.
I just don't
I
think-
wrote it on
No,
the deck
Garden
of
State.
Oh yeah, so but it was on an album of mine called Transcendental Highway in 1997, and it came out then, and then when I had the song, I thought this is a cool song, and I was hoping that people would hear it, but of course not really very many people did. It were only my friends, and a few people that had the record, because it wasn't a commercially
Because
successful
that was
album.
originally 2000, I think. Was that when
The year
No.
the first record that it was on?
1997.
No, it
Okay,
came
I got
out.
the dates wrong.
Came out in about 1996, 1997.
Oh, yeah, I
But
had
then,
that written
but
down,
then,
but not in my
but then Zach had that record, and he used to come and see me play.
Oh.
So, and he always liked that record. So, and he knew Carey Brothers, who also knew Josh Clayton Felt.
Yes.
So it was all connected. A lot of the musicians
Okay.
that I knew were a lot younger than me. So when he got the gig in Scrubs, he said, I'm going to try and get your songs on the show, which he did. And then he wrote a film. He said to me, I want to use that song in the film. So it was 10 years later, basically,
Wow.
Oh, okay, that's.
that it saw the light of day. And
So do you find now that like today when you're playing shows, there's kind of two groups. There's like the
Yeah.
Men at Work and then the Scrubs. Garden
yeah,
State.
I have a friend, this woman who is an old friend of mine, and her daughter was listening to my song, I Just Don't Think I'll Ever Get Over You, in the headphones, and her mother kind of recognized my voice, and she said, who are you listening to? She said, you won't know. And she said, no, who are you listening to? I think I know who that is. She goes, you don't know. And she said, it sounds, she said, it's Colin Hay. She goes, I know him. She said, you don't know him.
Well, speaking
But
of
yes, so yes, there's a different audience.
that's got to be kind of fun to have that mix and that different energies and everything. I'm sure.
Well,
but
in
ahead.
a coffee shop in Springfield, Illinois, I went in to get a coffee, and there was a guy who was about 40 years old, a guy who was about 20, and the young kid looked at me and said, "Oh, I love your songs, man." Oh, thanks. He goes, "Overkill's my favorite song." I said, "Oh, thank you." And the older guy looked at me and said, "You know who that is?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's in Scrubs." And the older guy goes, "Scrubs? What is Scrubs?" He was in Men at Work. And the young guy goes, "What's Men at Work?"
Well, I actually have a question from another old friend of yours. But before we get to that, I think speaking of Overkill, you
Let's
might
play that.
Play that.
Oh, I'm
All
so
right.
excited.
Overkill.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I can't get to sleep. Think about the implications, diving in too deep. Possibly the complications, especially at night. I worry over situations I know we'll be alright. Perhaps it's just imagination. Day after day reappears. Night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away. between the sheets only brings exasperation. It's time to walk the streets, smell the desperation. At least there's pretty lights, and though there's little variation, it nullifies the night from overkill. Day after day reappears, night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away. Come back another day. Especially at night, I worry over situations that I know will be alright. It's just overkill. Day after day reappears, night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away. Ghosts appear and fade away. Ghosts appear and fade away.
So that was Overkill, one of my all-time favorite Men at Work songs. So
And
glad you
mine
guys
too.
played that.
I feel like that song, you basically named anxiety before there was a word for anxiety that was in, the vernacular.
Well, I was feeling a little anxious at the time.
I bet.
I was thinking, well, there was two things going on a macro level. I knew that nothing was going to be the same because we were becoming quite successful, and I knew that we weren't going to be able to walk the same streets or do the same things with and there was a level of unknown, so you dive in or you don't. And also I was starting to struggle with the drink, and I thought to myself, well, I have to do something about this. So I had a certain amount of fear and anxiety on a daily basis. So that's where that song came from.
Wow.
Beautiful song.
Yeah. Oof. So, as I alluded to before the song, I have a question from an old friend old acquaintance friend, you tell me, through our brother-in-law, actually. It's all a family affair here, who knew you back when Men at Work was just first breaking. He has a fond memory of your open hospitality when you and your family invited him and his band to your house in Australia to have a Barbie. Is that still the right word? Do they still say
Yes.
Barbie in Australia?
Yeah, you can say that.
You say that? And that would be Mick Fleetwood.
Ah.
Oh,
Yes.
neat.
And he has a question. I asked him, I was like, what question would you like to ask Colin right now? He said, well, first, I can't do Mick Fleetwood, so I'm not going to try.
Terrible accent.
But before he asked this question, he was like, those guys are so hard to follow every night. They kept us on our toes, which is an amazing statement since you guys are pretty much still freshly new and they're an established, well-practiced, well-touring band. So, I mean, that's an amazing statement right there. But his question is, how the hell do you keep so focused on creative goals?
Good question, Mick.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mick.
Well, I take a great, I learned a good lesson from Paul Simon. I was watching him, and you know, he said that well, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that he lets the ideas come, and then he follows them, rather than trying to force it. So I think there's a great power to the word "let," of letting people be, letting yourself be, of just letting things in, and so that's what I try and do. I'm not always successful at it, but it's like if an idea comes into your head. I always think about a hotel lobby where it goes through a revolving door. If there's bags everywhere and there's chaos, it just goes around and leaves again. But if it goes into the hotel lobby and there's a fountain, there's a waterfall, and there's a bit of calm, then it can sit there and germinate and stay there for a while, and then you just follow where that idea goes. That I find that useful, but I'm lucky in a sense and fortunate that ideas they come, you know, and the hard thing is to finish them. You know, you get ideas and then you write them down, and then you go, well, you've got to write the end, not literally write the end, but you have to finish the song, and that can be the challenge. But I have a partner, a songwriting partner. There's three people in my life who've been really, really important. The first guy was a guy called Gate, who was a beautiful 12-string guitar player when I was younger. And then Ron, the other guitar player in Men at Work, was the second person. And then Michael G, my friend, is somebody who I like writing with, because there's a certain amount of simpatico and we write well together. And so I find that quite an inspiration, having somebody who I don't have to really have to talk much about what is involved.
So it's been helpful to like find someone to, you know, sound ideas off of. You're not, because I think a lot of musicians, artists, songwriters, like they get into this thing where they're in their own little cave, like doing their own thing, and like they don't allow some input because they feel like it might compromise what they're doing versus add to it. And certainly there's moments where you're like, this is mine, I don't need anybody else's.
That's right. Well, you can usually tell. I mean, sometimes when you're working with someone, like that's what happened with Ron. For example, I worked with Ron a lot, and but we never really wrote many songs together. But he was very inspirational, so I went off and wrote, you know, "It's a Mistake" or "Overkill" because I was working with him, and he just, you know, he light little sparks, you know. And that happens with Cecilia as well, to be honest. And so sometimes there's a phrase or there's even just an influence from something, because I tended to be more like that. I tended to work on my own a lot, you know. And then she was the one who said to me, look, you know, you should work with different musicians because they give you different things. And so I started to do that, and it opens your outlook a little more, you know.
And look at this beautiful family.
Yeah. I'm curious and I'd love everyone to answer this question, where you get your inspiration. Where does it come from sometimes?
Well, it's everywhere. You know, I don't necessarily have to feel inspired really to write a song. I mean, I think it's just, you know, it's what you do, or whether you play or whether you write. It's you know, it's part of your DNA really, and you know.
And he focuses. Once he focuses into doing anything, it just connects with that frequency. Well, people call it the muse, and you know, I always say the muse is there, but she has to catch you working, and he is. I see him in the morning sometimes when he's about to complete an album, and he just sits with the lyrics and sits in front of the computer, and it's almost like you can see this light. He's channeling, and he comes. Cool. And he's like, oh my God, this is great. Yeah, it's awesome. Well,
along all those lines, and again, this is for each of you, like, what would you have given the current state of the Wild West of the music industry and business, and having seen a lot of changes, I think we all have, like, what would be a piece of advice or knowledge that you would give aspiring musicians and songwriters?
Well, I would say I'll go first. But I would say, work really hard at your craft. Get on with it. And don't.
That's an important one.
And then just don't sign anything until you run it by a good lawyer.
That's very good advice.
That's
I
very
think
good.
if it's something you love, don't give up. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. Just keep pursuing it. And along the lines of finding inspiration, I mean, there's so many gifted musicians and composers and such, but you find inspiration everywhere. It's not only in books or in class or in study of music, but it's in walking by the ocean or out in nature, or the people you meet, or sitting and having the ritual of sitting and having tea or coffee or whatever it is. Sometimes that really grows you and allows you to express that in a improvised solo or in a composition or a song.
And just remember, it all comes from love. If you love what you do, it will just flourish. And don't be afraid to collaborate, because sometimes you're stuck. Sometimes you think, oh, this is as far as I can go with a lyric, or this is as far as I finished the lyric and I don't have the music. But don't be afraid of collaborating, because these times are very important to just collaborate with other people and not be afraid of opening up. If you're stuck into something. But work on your craft, and it has to come from a point where you love what you do so much. Not that you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make $1 million, I'm going to buy a gold chain and stuff like that. It's about love.
It's about love. Everything's about love.
That's right.
That's really great. And I think just to touch on one thing you said, Colin, about get on with it. I mean, I've heard this from you as well, because people, Tiffany's written some novels, and people are always asking for writing advice, and
get on with it.
Get on with it. Well, I think people they wait for a muse, and I always say, you can't wait for the muse. You got to sit down and fucking grind it out every day, and
she'll be there.
She'll be there if you show up, but you've got to show up and do the work first.
Right.
That's correct.
Excellent. Well, on that note, first, anything exciting coming up that you want to mention before we go?
Well, we have a really nice show at Sweetwater.
That is.
That's coming up, and that's exciting.
That is exciting.
So exciting.
And I've read that you're touring Europe as Men at Work.
Same band, different name.
Different name, okay. But focusing then on Men at Work songs.
Yeah, just all Men at Work
Yeah,
set.
that's June and July.
Correct.
So
Then I go back out with Ringo.
That's Ringo, as in Ringo Starr, but you probably knew that.
Oh, wow. How did that come together? How did you?
Oh, they just asked me years ago, and I'd done a few tours, and he asked me again last year, and so there's nothing wrong with that tour.
It must be fun.
It's a lot of.
I liked the rockin' sort of aspects of some of those songs. I
Yeah.
saw some of the Men at Work songs
Yeah.
live, and they rocked.
Beautiful.
Exactly. That's one of the great things about playing those old song, Men at Work songs, or even whether it's a Toto song or a Santana song or Hamish, the Average White Band songs. Playing all those songs with that band is really, really great. And I turn around and I'm playing Who Could Have Been Out with Ringo, and he's like, I go, my God, I am playing. It's like you're dreaming. Ringo's playing my.
That's pretty awesome.
For those of you who couldn't see that, Colin just made an interesting Ringo face imitation.
Look that up
drums,
online. It's worth it.
Well, thank you guys all again for
All right, thank you.
sharing your time with us. It's been
Thank
an
you
honor,
so
and
much.
as Cecilia said, focus on the love, focus on the music.
And may I say, Scott, that's a nice shirt.
Thank you very much.
I'm taking credit for the shirt, too.
I will give her credit.
Shirt and hair by Tiffany.
Well, the hair is okay.
It's me.
All right.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you. Cheers.
Be sure to follow us on YouTube and or on your favorite podcast network. Leave your comments down below. We want to hear from you, what you think, what your thoughts are. Until next time, this has been Cocktails with Bright Antenna.